loved it. I'll send you a copy. Bam! Bitch went down.
Welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking Vera Farmiga. We're talking another Toronto tie-in. And of course, we're talking about Killer Children. I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace. And I think you said Vera Farmiga, like a finger. And it's definitely Farmiga.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Farminka.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say for this episode.
I've heard people say Farmiga, and I'm like a Formica, but that's not correct. But yes.
Yeah. Like a countertop. We shall refer to her as countertop.
Exactly. I am Trace, like I just said, and we have a wonderful guest today. So I'd like to introduce, she is the VP of Development and Acquisitions at 1195, and the writer of Deadly Dispatch at TV1. And you will also soon know her as the co-host of the Afro Horror Podcast. Please welcome Sade Sellers.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're
so
happy you are here. Yes, because you actually have been listening to us for quite a while, so we're actually very happy to have
I
Dad
have.
here.
I tracked you down on Twitter and begged to be on the show, and you finally relented and gave me the
You
best.
can just say stalked. It's fine.
It's totally fine. I'll take it.
I definitely stalked. And my options were vast, and I picked Orphan, just so everyone knows. I picked this one.
No, so listeners, for some behind-the-scenes info, yes, whenever we send out the things... Well, I don't know if Joe does it this way, but when I send out the list of films to guests, we send them a calendar of basically all the openings we have and let them pick. And yes, Sade picked Orphan, which I was a little surprised by, but...
I'm an Orphan defender, and I'm here
Okay.
to defend its name.
I will
right.
join you in defending this film.
Yes.
Now, I'm intrigued by that, Joe, because I looked at your Letterboxd score yesterday, which maybe you raised that today?
I have not.
Okay, fine.
I think that it's a really interesting film that is worthy of a lot of attention, but I don't also think that always makes it a great film. Like, I think it's achieving both things simultaneously.
Okay. Well, I'll accept that, and we'll get into it. But before we really dive into this film, let's go over some technicalities. So, listeners, we are discussing Orphan, which was released on July 24th, 2009, which means this episode is dropping the week of its 10th anniversary!
Yes.
We love an anniversary.
I do. I mean, we do, yes. And... that's great. And it was released by Warner Brothers, but important to note, it was produced by Dark Castle Entertainment. And
rest
I know.
in peace.
When did they do anything after this? I didn't look that up, but I used to love me some Dark Castle.
Dark
Oh, yeah.
Castle was everything in the 90s.
It was amazing.
It was basically saving horror's ass at the tail end of the century, right?
Right, before we got like remake fever, J-horror fever, and torture porn.
Yeah.
You know what? I think Joel Silva, the owner or the president, something of Dark Castle, he actually produced Gothica, because I've been doing my horror research.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's also Dark Castle.
oh, is it?
Yeah, it is. Well, no, because Dark Castle got started as remaking William Castle movies. That's why you have your House on Haunted Hill and you have your 13 Ghosts. But then...
they kind of ran out of them, right?
well, yeah, I mean, because I think the next one they did was Ghost Ship?
Amazing. Love that
yes. I like parts of Ghost Ship.
Is it the Juliana Margulies parts?
No, it was the opening scene.
Because nobody likes the Juliana Margulies parts.
Well, I like Juliana Margulies. She's just kind of like a whatever in that movie. But I grew up watching 13 Ghosts on repeat with my sister,
Yes.
so I'm a big 13 Ghost defender.
Yes, me too.
But Orphan, however, was made at the very tail end of Dark Castle's reign. I think it was released after House of Wax. I don't think there was anything in between that, but this movie does share the same director. So we are looking at a runtime of 123 minutes, which
it's long.
It's
it's
long.
the biggest flaw of this movie. I didn't remember how long it was because I remember really liking this movie, and on my rewatch last night, I was struggling a little bit.
Yeah, when you messaged me and you were like, just a heads up, this is over 2 hours, I was like, what?
Why?
Really? Like,
it's that
I had
first
forgotten.
act. Yeah, it's the first act where they're building, they're really layering on the characters. You're just like, all right, that's enough.
I'll touch on this now. We'll really dive into it after we go through like kind of more technicalities. But I I kind of appreciate, you are right, Sade, it is the first act. That's where, if you're going to cut something, that's where any horror movie would cut it. I kind of appreciated the character development. My problem was that Peter Sarsgaard's character is such a terrible fucking person that I didn't want to know him anymore.
Exactly.
Although, admittedly, he's in this less than I remember as well.
Yeah.
I remember it being very much like a couple takes in this child and they have to figure it out together. And then when you watch it, you're like, oh no, this is basically the mom versus daughter show.
Well, and the kids are actually in it a lot too. The kids play a much bigger part than I remember them playing. And again, this movie, what I respect about this movie is that it goes into some very dark places that I wouldn't expect.
And we'll get into it, but that husband is just useless. But we'll...
Awful. So yeah, made for a budget of $20 million, which, I mean, that's... I think it's less than I think House of Wax was a lot more because they have more special effects work. This is less of a special effects heavy film. But it opened at number 4 with $12.9 million the same week, 10 years ago in 2009. And it ended up making $41.6 million and then a worldwide gross of $76.7 million. So it earned its money back. I don't know if I would, because there's, those weird like box office numbers and you're like, oh, you got to make like 3 or 4 times the budget to really account for marketing and publicity and blah, blah, blah. So it might have been a minor success.
Yeah, I don't think it was a barn burner, but I think it did better. Like, considering that opening, to leg it out to 41 million is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, this film is also sold on, spoiler alert, the giant fucking twist. Like,
right.
Everything about this film was marketed as, don't spoil the twist, what is her secret, etc.
You'll never guess her secret.
Yeah. Just like, what, a cosmetic company? Like...
I don't gravitate towards killer kid horror. It's not one of my favorite subgenres, but you bet my ass was in that theater opening weekend because I wanted to know what was wrong with Esther.
Well, if you watch the trailer back, it's really awful. Like, I'm
really?
surprised. Yeah, I watched it back after watching the movie, and the trailer it's god awful, so I'm really surprised that I even went to see it in the theater. Like,
we were all such suckers back 10 years ago.
Yeah, 2009.
I mean,
Dark
apparently
times.
Not a lot of us because it was $12.9 million, but...
I think that was good for horror, though. Like, I'd be interested... This is the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, maybe you should do some research, but I'd be interested to know what comparable opening weekends were for horror, because I think, like, anything around the teens was probably considered okay.
Well, maybe, but I mean, like, this is 2009. Saw 2 is in 2005 and opens with, like, almost $30 million, so...
But this film is so blatantly not part of what's happening
right.
in conventional horror at this point, right? Like, it's not J-horror and it's not Saw.
Yeah, and it's not a remake.
Yeah.
And it's an original script.
It is, but it does borrow from a lot of horror tropes, which we'll get into. So reception, kind of middle of the road. I mean, it's not terrible. Rotten Tomatoes are looking at 55% with an audience score of 63, and Metacritic of 42 out of 100 with, get this, a user score in Metacritic of 8.8 out of 10.
That's got to be like people rediscovering it after the fact and being like, oh, this movie's actually way better than I thought it was.
Maybe.
Like, that's high. That's a really high score.
I remember people really liking it when it came out. I mean, like, people, like normal people, not like critics. Like, I mean, Entertainment Weekly gave this like a D+. It was insane. But I remember people liking it because the twist is kind of crazy.
It is.
That's why I liked
definitely
it.
batshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, before we go to your plot summary, Joe, I did want to point out. So, oh, fuck. Okay, I meant to Google YouTube, like, pronunciate this, because I did not look it up. But
is it Jaume Collet-Serra?
We can say that. We can say that. It's Spanish, so maybe it's like Jaume? I don't know. We're going to say Collet-Serra. That's just going to be his name. But yes, he got his debut with House of Wax, then did this, and then did a bunch of Liam Neeson movies like Unknown and Nonstop, and then went back to horror with The Shallows, and then went back to Liam Neeson with The Commuter, and then is now doing Disney's adaptation of the Jungle Cruise ride with The Rock. And then we have a screenwriter in David Leslie Johnson, who hasn't done a ton, but he has been a co-writer on Wrath of the Titans, The Conjuring 2, and Aquaman. But he is writing Conjuring 3 on his lonesome for next year. So
I did think it was interesting too that you're one of the many fun trivia points. This, if you want a lot of trivia, that's actually kind of trivia-ish. The IMDb for this film is actually pretty decent. But apparently the script is one of the films that was on the blacklist. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah, it's an amazing honor to be featured on the blacklist.
So, Sade, because you're an LA person, I'm sorry, you live in LA.
I'm an Angelina. Well, no, I can't call myself that. I've only been here 10 years, and you can't call yourself no, they don't count it here.
There's politics around this.
So, for any listeners, though, because we do have some younger listeners who don't know, can you please tell them or tell us what the blacklist is?
The blacklist is an awesome resource for screenwriters, and especially unknown, unproduced screenwriters like formerly myself, brag. It was created by a black man, which is awesome. I can't remember his name right now. I don't want to get it wrong. Right. But it's really a place for you to upload your scripts, and then people can read them, and they rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. 7 to 8 means it's really, really good, and studios and networks should take a look at it. So Orphan was uploaded on the blacklist, and it went around what they have their annual list, which is called the Blacklist, of about 20 or so screenplays that basically got high scores that the industry should look at. So take that, Orphan haters. This was on the blacklist.
No, I mean, I think the screenplay is solid, and there's actually, I have some notes in earlier drafts of the film that I pulled. Some stuff that was cut, there was stuff cut out of this that I'm like, oh, I would have liked to have seen that actually, but you know.
But there's also stuff that was cut out of this where you're like, no, that was a good decision.
I'm going to tell you right now, I watched the shocking alternate ending after I watched this yesterday, and it is hot garbage.
Really?
Yeah, it's real bad. And I don't even think the one they went with is great, but yeah.
I think narratively, the ending of this film is probably the best that they could do. Probably so.
And I have one more little note before we go to your plot summary, Joe, but the composer of this is John Ottman, who also composed Lake Placid, which we just talked about recently.
Jesus Christ.
I know. And he also did the score, well, the rejected score for Halloween H2O, and directed Urban Legend's Final Cut.
Well, I will say, though, about all the people, the editor, cinematographer, director, there's a lot of horror love on this crew. Editor did Darkness Falls, composer, John Ottman, Halloween H2O. So it's kind of like a little mini camp for horror creators.
We've kind of learned this as we've really kind of delved into the crew of films that we've been covering, that, yeah, people like to stick together in the horror community, at least in the crews, because we've had so many recurring names pop up. Especially in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Even the actors, yeah. I mean, Skeleton Key, Conjuring, Amityville, it's a pretty solid horror, list.
I would like to think that making a horror movie is very fun, and that now that it's not considered like a death sentence for your career to be in a horror movie. I mean, again, look at fucking Vera Farmiga right here doing The Conjuring. That was a joke, by the way, because that's not her name.
Farmiga.
but yeah, I mean, I think people come, I just think it's fun. I imagine it's very fun, but you never know. So, Joe, what is Orphan about?
Okay, as always, feel free to interject. I think I used to be able to do this in 3 paragraphs, and now it just becomes 2 pages of plot synopsis. So
I think that since we started interjecting, it kind of works out.
This is true. Yeah, I try to lay breadcrumbs for you to pick up as we go. So Okay, here we go. So, Orphan. After an opening flashback nightmare in which Kate, Vera Cornucopia, relives the trauma of losing her 3rd child, Jessica, she visits her therapist.
I'm sorry. Already? I know. I'm already stopping you. So, Sade, and if this is too personal, you can say cut it out. Do you have children?
I do not have kids, and that's not personal at all. I do not want them.
Cool.
So fur babies.
I know.
Fur babies.
I don't want children either. I mean, luckily, I'm gay. I can't accidentally have a kid. But I do not. My husband and I do not want kids. But I will say that watching this fucking nightmare opening, it was
rough.
I forgot they show the fetus. It is terrifying.
That's the part I think that could have been cut. As opening sequences go, it doesn't really fit with the rest of the film for me. I thought we were going in that kind of direction, and then we didn't. So I don't really know where this opening scene manifested itself from.
That's interesting.
I think they could have easily inferred that Jessica had been lost in some other way. Like, you probably could have opened this with her just in therapy and have them be like, so how are you handling the loss and these kinds of things? But I think this is one of those, okay, we need a punchy opening. So you go with a big bloody nightmare sequence.
Well, someone tweeted me, because I tweeted that I was watching this and I mentioned the opening scene, because I don't know if I agree with you, Sade, because I actually do like the opening, but I do agree that it is maybe...
It feels slightly misleading for what you actually get.
Yes, absolutely. But someone was like, I thought that was a nightmare sequence, and so I was shocked when it wasn't. And I was like, no, it is.
It is.
A nightmare sequence.
No, it is, yes.
It is 100% a nightmare sequence.
But it's like, yeah, it's like, but she did actually lose the baby. I mean, I guess I get that, but yeah.
But I'm sure they didn't present it to her on a silver platter like, oh, oops, sorry.
But I would believe that fucking Peter Sarsgaard was sitting there as she was losing the baby with the camera like, hey, honey, what's going on? Because he's a
for
dick.
sure.
100%.
Tool. What a tool.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so she visits her therapist, Dr. Browning.
Margo Martindale.
Character actress
Margo Martindale.
She's a tool too, the therapist. But.
She is, but I love character actress Margo Martindale.
Yeah, she's amazing. This is another one of those incidents, similar again to Lake Placid, where you're like, why is this character in here and not being murdered?
Right. Yeah. Why are you in here so much? Why are you so important?
Well, she should be coming to the house and being like, hey, bitch, you back in the sauce? And then just getting brutally murdered.
Well, because they have to just kill the Black Nun, played by C.C.H. Pounder. That's all they have to do.
I can't wait till we get there. I timed her death, so I'm so excited.
I mean, she actually got more than a scene, so I was like, you go, C.C.H. Pounder.
Supposedly, David Leslie Johnson, the screenwriter, wrote that part with C.C.H. Pounder in mind. Now, that was from IMDb
I always
trivia.
Loved her, and I thought, how can I honor her? I should murder her.
I'm going to make her this nun. You know what? Why don't you just
Always
make her the main character of the movie?
Honestly, yeah.
Right,
like,
or Dr. Browning. I don't get that.
Yeah, swap out the roles. Make Margo Martindale play the...
she'd make a great nun.
Oh, yeah,
for
she
sure.
would.
100%
Absolutely.
great nun.
Okay,
we've made it 2 lines in. So...
Fine.
Okay, so she visits her therapist, Dr. Browning, Margo Martindale, to discuss her alcoholism as well as the possibility of adopting a child. After picking up her deaf daughter, Max, Ariana Engineer, which is an interesting and also great name.
Yeah.
It soon becomes clear that Kate is both distracted and quick to anger. Her son Daniel, Jimmy Bennett, is petulant, and her husband John, Peter Sarsgaard, is aloof and hands-off when it comes to parenting.
I did want to say that Jimmy Bennett has one of the weirdest looking faces of any child actor I've ever seen in my life.
He does.
Aww.
It's punchable. I find it highly punchable.
But we need to be kind to Jimmy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he was making the rounds, though, in the late 2000s, because he also, horror family, he was in the Amityville Horror remake, and even though I think this is a terrible movie, but
No, it's not.
No, wait, the next one. I do like the Amityville Horror remake, actually, quite a bit, because I think the original...
No, I mean Poseidon. Poseidon is not a terrible movie.
She is coming in with the hot takes.
Oh my god, no. Poseidon, I love the Poseidon Adventure. That remake is not good, but
isn't that one another one where they just kill off all the people of color so that they can keep Richard Dreyfuss alive as long as possible?
Yes, but Richard Dreyfuss is playing a gay man.
But also, you get to kill off Fergie. You get to kill off Fergie. So
kill off Fergie and Andre Braugher.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, girl. I mean, that movie is star-studded and...
Well, like the Poseidon Adventure.
Very much. I mean, fucking Amy Rossum before Shameless. Like,
Freddie Rodriguez.
Who dies very early.
Yes.
Yeah. As he often did, I feel like, until... what was it, Planet Terror, where he actually gets a fucking starring role.
But, and I know y'all will see that I have this as the big, bold thing on my notes for this. Jimmy Bennett, which I did not know this until I looked this up. He is the kid who accused Asia Argento of sexually harassing him.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that someone accused her of that. I didn't know who it was. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh, because I was actually going to make a joke because I had looked up his picture when I was doing the cast list. And I was like, oh, Jimmy got a little hot when he got older. And then I read that and I was like, well, oh God, I need to take a shower.
I want to, just a heads up. So, okay, in 2015, his ex-girlfriend, who was 17 when they dated, filed a temporary restraining order against him, accusing him of stalking, statutory rape, and exploiting her for child pornography. Now, that was dismissed a month later. But then in 2017, that's when he made his accusations against Asia Argento, when... I guess he claimed it happened in 2013. I know we're not going to go into this because it's not like a legal podcast, but I was just, when I saw that, I was shocked that this is like, that he was the kid. So anyway.
Narrator, he was.
Yeah.
Okay, we've made it through 2 paragraphs.
I know.
So, that weekend, they traveled to Sister Abigail, C.C.H. Pounder.
Woo!
They traveled to her orphanage. It's not actually hers, but I couldn't be bothered to actually look up the name. Where John is befriended by Esther, Isabel Furman, a withdrawn 9-year-old girl. They learn her sad story, that she is originally from Russia and that her first family died in a house fire. And ominously, Sister Abigail describes her as a princess, and she is very particular when it comes to her attachment to her wrist and neck ribbons. Bum, bum, bum. 3 weeks later, at the Coleman's palatial home, Esther and Daniel get off to a rough start while Grandma Barbara, Rosemary Dunsmore, another person who should die, killed in this movie, well, Grandma Barbara finds her precious. As Esther settles in, she makes a school enemy in Brenda, Jamie Young. She kills a bird that Daniel shot with his paintball gun, and it is revealed that she has an unhealthy attachment to an old Bible. Things start to fall apart when Esther sees Kate and John having sex, and Kate worries about Esther's reaction, which is quite unusual. At the park, John flirts with a woman.
To be fair, they're fucking in the middle of the kitchen, doggy style.
No, they're fucking everywhere in that house. And I'm like, you guys have 3 kids.
Yes. I mean, I did say this house is fucking palatial. It is like house porn to the max, but yeah, like... I've always gotten the feeling, so I've seen this movie 4 times since it came out.
Oh my.
I'm convinced that John is like a secret voyeuristic perv and that he gets off on like having sex with her in different parts of the house when the kids could walk in.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because there's no reason for it. I'm like, you got a shed, you got a car, you got an office.
You got a fucking tree house. Come on.
Right, the tree house.
But they pick the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like which
is all open.
There.
It's all open spaces and like glass. Like literally there is nowhere to hide in that kitchen. So dumb.
Right, like bitch, you make our sandwiches on that counter. You're disgusting.
Yeah. If only Grandma Barbara knew what was going on, she would be shocked, I tell you.
Yeah.
She's such a tool, too.
She's a total tool.
And honestly, everyone turns... Well, okay, sorry. We'll get into it. Continue.
Yeah. Okay. At the park, John flirts with a woman, providing Esther with an opportunity to push Brenda off the slide and break her leg. Max becomes her confidant, covering for the incident and later reading Kate's lips when it appears that Sister Abigail is onto her. Which is true. Kate learns that Esther has been lying, prompting a fight about John's former infidelity. Sister Abigail reveals that Esther may be a bad seed, a fact that is then immediately confirmed when Esther brutally murders her with a hammer.
I forgot that she has to hit her a couple more times. Like, I thought it was one and done hit.
Yeah, you think it's the one time on the road and then they're like dragging the body and then you're like, oh no, she's going to Happy Hammer Town. Nice.
Yeah.
I just like that's what... That immediately points it out that she's a bad seed. Like, no.
Well, and I think I timestamped it. No, it's like, it's a little before the hour mark. And you're like...
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
no, it's 55 minutes and 54 seconds because I
Boom.
paused it to say, all right, time of death for our black lady is 55 minutes, 54 seconds.
She almost made it 50% of the way through this movie.
She almost did.
But that's also the problem, though, is because you also now have another hour and 7 minutes of this movie.
Yeah. And, like, how many more people died in between this and John? It's a lot of like, honestly, this feels like a long con kind of like, it's just a dance. It's Esther like fucking people shit up, but not doing anything. So,
well, we'll talk about the successfulness of the film because again, when you're marketing the film as an evil kid film, your audience is already ahead of your characters. So we'll get there.
Yeah. Okay. After an incident involving dead baby Jessica's roses, Esther fractures her... I know. I was like, how can I say this politely? And then I was like, when have we ever been polite on this podcast?
I will say that I gasped at this part, though. I was very taken aback.
Yeah, so Esther fractures her own wrist using a vice grip. John blames Kate, which nearly causes her to break her own sobriety. The next day, Esther nearly kills Max in a car accident, but Dr. Browning and John blame Kate, once again, after Esther brings them the boozy evidence. That night, Esther and Kate face off as Esther reveals Kate's addiction is responsible for Max's deafness after the little girl fell into the pond when Kate was having an alcoholic incident. This film is actually really good at doing things like, oh, you didn't know they had an affair? This comes out at this point. Oh, you didn't know she was responsible for Max? Oh,
it's very natural without, like, you know, stopping the film for an expository scene.
Yeah, because usually these films are like, they just, well, they kind of hit you over the head with a hammer with it.
Yeah.
No pause for
irony.
Oh, sorry, you were making a fun.
Oh, that. Yeah.
This is how you know that Trace is tuned out.
I was listening. I just wasn't.
I mean, I was tuned in and I missed it. So
there you go.
Okay.
Sorry.
Listeners, I hope you pity laughed for me. So. Okay, we're almost there. Esther nearly burns Danny to death in the treehouse. At the hospital, Esther tries to then murder him again, prompting Kate to open-handed slap Esther in the face.
Yeah.
With Kate sedated, because of course you can't hit your daughter in an open ER and not expected to get put into restraints, Esther moves her plan into action. She steals Max's hearing aid, gets hoed up, and puts on some sexy moves on John. Kate then receives a call from an Estonian psychiatric hospital and learns that Esther has a rare hormone disorder. Here's the twist, folks. She is actually a 33-year-old woman who has tried to seduce the fathers of all of her adopted families, and then she kills them and the families in fires whenever she doesn't get what she wants. John then discovers Esther's violent and sexually pornographic black art paintings as Kate desperately makes her way home.
They also allude to that in the, it was one of those ones where, like, when the logo appears in the beginning, the Warner Brothers logo, and there's black paint.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for what would you even call that? Like,
it's kind of like a tease, right?
Yeah, like
a
team themed, like an It, you know, like you see the balloon come out from behind the New Line logo or whatever. I love that. So I like that. Like, that pays off at the end.
Yeah, they have a tendency to do it a lot with Universal films because they've got a globe that they can just transform into a variety of different things. So
Scott Pilgrim, 8-bit.
I like it. All right, bringing it home. Esther repeatedly stabs John, then goes after Max. Kate arrives, and she and Esther play cat and mouse until Kate eventually falls through the greenhouse onto her. The police arrive as the two women struggle atop the frozen lake. Max's terrible shot ends up sinking them, and despite several stab wounds, Kate ultimately prevails, kicking Esther in the face with the brilliant final line, "I'm not your fucking mommy," as Esther then sinks into the deep.
So I think that took 15 minutes, which might be a record for us. No, that might be a record for us. But again, we're looking at a 2-hour and 3-minute movie. One comment before we dive into shit is that I'm not your fucking mommy, I would like so much more if The Ring 2 didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the exact same closing line. Now, granted, this is a better movie than The Ring 2.
Yeah.
But the fact that it exists already makes me, like, not as impressed with the ending. And then it also just cuts to black. Like, it's like she gets out and there's no, like, coda of repercussions of, like, how this... Like, the father is dead.
Yes.
Those kids are fucked.
But we're not really sad about that.
No.
That's actually the thing that I like the most about this ending.
Right.
I mean, by this point, it's been 2 hours, so I'm pretty much ready to let go. But I also love the fact that this film is so women fucking centric that it's like, we told you that Max survived, and we told you that Kate survived. Who knows whether that little fucking shit is going to wake up in the hospital or if he's got brain damage, and John is just dead, and nobody cares.
We don't even, because we know Danny's alive, but we don't see, like, anything.
Yeah, but because she put that pillow over him.
Like, he died, and then they brought him back.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and they brought him back, so he's got to be fucked up. So
I like to think so.
I did feel a little robbed, though, so I know that Peter Sarsgaard, like, realizes...
I'm sorry, did you say Sarsgaard or Skarsgård?
It's Sarsgaard.
Skarsgård.
No, it's oh my god.
I think it's Skarsgård.
No, it is not. Okay,
this is me doing a bit.
It's Alexander, Stellan, and Bill Skarsgård. Peter Sarsgaard has no relation to them.
Does he have a famous father, though?
No.
Like, is he... No, okay. So he's just part of the Gyllenhaals, then, is what you're saying.
Sure. Anyway, so...
He's married to Maggie.
Oh, that's right. He is married to Maggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
In a day.
Honestly, after our like Placid episode, I'm gonna have to start really paying attention to who's married to who, because I think there were like 3 marriage revelations in that episode. So
it's true.
clearly,
it was like a marriage trap. We kept getting Trace. It was really funny.
You too, because whatever. Listeners, go back and listen to Lake Placid if you want to know what those were. So I wish that we had more time of him being like, oh fuck, I was wrong. My wife, who I've been fucking trolling for this entire movie, was right.
No, instant karma. It's what he deserves. Instant karma.
I completely
This is really
agree.
frustrating as a woman. Yeah, she was a drunk. Yeah, her kid almost died by falling through the ice, but you cheated like 10 years ago and then just told her 2 years ago after they lost the baby. Like, you are now innocent.
That reveal...
There are revelations in this movie.
That reveal of like, oh yeah, he cheated on her 10 years ago and like told her 8 years after the fact. Mm-hmm. I was like, girl, why even bring it up at that point?
But how dare he judge her? Like, and the audacity, and not believe her. First of all, like, if anyone shouldn't be believed, like, it's you.
Yeah.
Like, girl, she sounded just like fun. She just wanted to have some drinks, hang out. Like, she had a rough year.
I was actually perplexed by character actress Margo Martindale's reluctance to believe her about things.
Right.
I get the husband because he's clearly like not happy in the marriage, and so he's looking for a way out. But I was very perplexed by the therapist not wanting to like even give her the time of day.
Well, she wanted to sleep with the husband.
Ooh, juicy. I never thought of that.
Like, I mean, he's fine. Look, he is hot. He's a hot dad. I like it.
Yeah.
I can definitely see the therapist.
But
but it's good.
It is. I do think, to come back to you, Trace, I think one of the reasons that she maybe doesn't trust her, it's interesting. There's a lot of things that you have to infer in this film because they don't spell it out, and it is kind of like these nuggets are interspersed among all the like ridiculous, ostentatious things that Esther's doing. But I've always gotten the impression that Kate has been going to Dr. Browning for a number of years, so maybe Dr. Browning has seen her when she was doing the drinking. That's
kind of the thing, is that we don't get to see those things, and it's ironic because I'm saying I wish we could have seen more, which would have added to the runtime of this movie. But is it? Well,
look, I went to therapy today, as I do every other week, and my therapist actually dropped a little tidbit that all therapists are more crazy than their actual clients.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Margo is insane. Like, Dr. Browning is batshit crazy herself.
I mean, she doesn't see through Esther's trappings. Like, she has one session with her, and she's like, she's fine. She's a very nice, healthy girl. But, oh, by the way, though, Kate, you're a bitch.
Right, exactly.
I think you're meant to believe that Esther has, like, she is so smart, like, she is such an adroit manipulator, as Kate calls her, that she can literally fool everybody. Like, in a way, the film is actually positioning Kate as the most damaged protagonist, but also the person who can see through everybody's bullshit.
It's the wine. For sure.
Or it's like the brilliance that comes with not being on the wine after so long.
That's right. The sobriety is
She's got sobriety like genius vision.
She's an X-Men, basically.
Yeah, she's the Jean Grey of Orphan. Or the Professor X of Orphan.
But it's really frustrating because if that was my therapist, I'd be like, bitch, why am I paying you? Like, you're supposed to at least give me some constructive feedback, but she just blamed Kate. And I was like, it's so easy.
I dropped this movie from a 4 out of 5 to a 3 out of 5 on this rewatch. And I know, I still enjoy it. I love how trashy it is, but I was so frustrated with how the whole last hour of this movie is just people not believing Vera Farmiga. It's frustrating.
Gaslight the movie.
It is. And I get that's the point.
It's hard to watch, right?
It's so hard to watch, but to a point where I was like, there's no way. Like...
Because, after a little girl breaks her leg, a nun is dead, your cabin thing catches on fire, your treehouse catches on fire, like, what are y'all not seeing here?
Well, and I think that's what's so frustrating about the Peter Sarsgaard character, though, is that he's such an infuriating character that I couldn't deal with it. I could not handle any scene that he was in, to the point where when he's getting stabbed repeatedly in a very lengthy, prolonged death scene, lots
that was
of stabs.
Rough.
I felt such a sense of catharsis that I was just like, all right, chop his head off, chop his little prick off, like you were gonna do to that little kid. Do it.
Honestly, this is basically a different take on Midsommar, right? Where I think we're actively meant to root for the demise of the male characters in this film. Like, every time I watch it, I always think that he is terrible and Danny is terrible. Like, the only other person... Like, I wish that Grandma Barbara also got murdered, because I think she's also terrible. But
she is terrible. And she's his mother, right? She said mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
I
don't know why I thought it was her mother. Whenever she gives Esther the money to go for the soda machine when she's going to go kill a little boy, I'm like,
you're just like,
you
such
idiot.
a dumb bitch. But I think we're meant to cheer when he gets stabbed to death, because at this point, like, I don't care to have him realize that he's made a mistake, because we've known he's been wrong this whole time.
I just love that moment of realization. Like, whether it's this movie or someone else, I want to see someone know that they're wrong.
Well, wasn't he the one drinking when Esther was hitting on him? He kind of, like, had, like, a slur realization, like, oh, she is batshit crazy.
No, wait, all of a sudden, I've been drugged.
What?
Wait, was he drugged?
Yeah.
Was he drugged or was he drinking?
I thought he was just drunk. He finished a whole bottle of wine.
Oh, I always inferred that he was drunk, because that's why the camera actually gives us, like, the blurry point of view shot.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, he is drunk, like you just said.
I think I've always thought that it was more than that.
And I thought he was, because she had bought 2 bottles of wine, and she poured one out, but she had one left. So I was like, you hypocrite. You went home and drank her bottle. Like, she's coming back for that.
Honestly, I would have been pissed off. But no, I mean, I know what you're talking about, Joe. You're right. It does have the wavy, like, blurry vision effect. But I just thought that was the film just trying to be like, he's tanked. Even though I have downed a bottle of wine and not been tanked.
Lightweight. Yeah, what's wrong with you? God, he sucks.
I always took it to be part of her seduction technique. Like, that's how she gets the daddies into bed, is she drugs them, she gets all dolled up, and then she makes her move.
I did appreciate the tactful way that they showed her grabbing his penis.
I'm sorry, did you say tactful or tactile?
Tactful. Or both.
I'm just gonna keep making this fucking joke until somebody laughs.
Tactile is touching. I don't get it.
It's... Never mind. Move on.
Anyway, but no, but again, apparently that scene was originally written a lot more graphically, but I like that I think they got the point across very well without being, like, pedophilic.
Well, how old was Isabel when she actually landed this role?
Oh, I looked it up. She's 12.
Yeah, she's 12.
She was 12?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I thought she was 14. Oh, that's worse.
No,
she's so young and delivering such a good performance.
No, she's great.
She is. She's very, very good in this movie, and I'm still surprised. Apparently, when she says they fuck, like when she says that to Vera Farmiga, Collet-Serra basically said, "Oh, we're gonna do it in 2 takes, so you don't have to do this again," because he like didn't want her to have to, like, say
swear repeatedly
again. And I'm like, but I bet you had her fucking hit C.C.H. Pounder in the head like 5,000 times.
Well, I bet it changes, right? Once you cast the actress and you're like, oh, this is a real 12-year-old, we need to cut some stuff out. Like, she's a kid.
Yeah.
Well, and they typically have strategies of how to film this. So, like, when she's hitting C.C.H. Pounder, that's not her. Like, she's probably not there. That's why you don't... Like, you see her with the hammer and the blood, and then you see the whack on the head, but it's probably not her.
It's probably like a stunt double with pigtails.
It's an insert with, like, a second unit. Like, she's not even on that set.
Oh, well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
They can't put children into these scenes. That would fuck them up. Like, apparently Max, they told the actress who plays Max, because she's quite young, and apparently legitimately... She is actually deaf, so
yes,
take that, the quiet place.
Wait,
that girl was deaf.
That girl was deaf, Joe.
Well, no, she got so much press for like, oh, John Krasinski cast like this deaf actress, and you're like, yeah, it was done in Orphan back in 2009.
I thought you were throwing shade at this deaf actress. I was like, Joe.
She's deaf. She's really
Fuck
deaf.
all these little deaf actresses. That's what I'm saying. No.
Well, no, this girl, and the only credit I could find of her was she was in Resident Evil Retribution, which is one of the more fun Resident Evil sequels, but she plays Mila Jovovich's deaf daughter in her virtual reality fantasy life.
Oh, was that the one where she has all the clones of herself and they keep dying?
No, that is the fourth one.
Sidebar, I also feel like I've asked you that question on this podcast before, and I don't know why it keeps coming up.
The fifth one is, when I watched it, I really didn't like it because basically the whole movie is Alice and her friends are like kept in an underground facility and they have to basically escape. But the trailers made it look like it was a world traveling thing, but it's actually different levels of countries in the underground facility.
Oh gosh.
So it's the most video gamey of the movies. But once you kind of accept it for what it is, it's one of the most fun.
Okay.
So
I can accept that.
Yeah. One day we might do that, because I'm sure we can come up with some... Oh, you know why? Because Michelle Rodriguez comes back in that movie, so we can make up some kind of lesbian thing about it.
There we go. Yeah. As opposed to this film, which really has
speaking
no
of which, though, yeah, what is the queer reference in this film? Is it the guy who worked with Bryan Singer?
Right. That was John Ottman. No, so Joe, you put on the thing. You said there's no queer element, but an outside threat to a nuclear family? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So part of it is that Esther, I mean, I'm always hesitant to call people queer icons or like queer representations, but traditionally...
She's kind of a campy bitch, though, so, I mean...
She's delightfully campy, and this film is pretty campy, if you want to be honest. But,
it is.
I think just this idea that you're introducing a foreign element into, this very, like, well-to-do white family with their two perfect children. Like, even Max. Like, I love that Max is this adorable scamp, and, like, her disability is really... Like, it's not a disability. Everyone in the family seems to handle it perfectly fine. But then you introduce this, demonic entity bitch with her dark hair and her Russian name and
her weird clothes.
And she just like she's the queer little thing that ruins their perfect facade. Because, okay, so I've done an analysis of this film before with my other writing partner.
I didn't know you had this secret love for Orphan, by the way. I'm a little shocked. And when you said you've seen this 4 times since it came out, I was like, Joe.
I'm the most surprised of any of us. I didn't think I liked it this much. No, I think one of the things that I really gravitate to is the fact that this film is like 60% a melodrama about a family just trying to keep their shit together.
Yes,
and then like 40% a bad seed movie about a little girl who just like comes in and tries to kill everybody.
Yeah, it's about the fragility of what a family is. That's when I write, that's usually my main theme. Families are very fragile ecosystems, and I love that this one really, I mean, they went through it, right? They lost a kid. They have a kid who has a disability.
They've got alcoholism.
The father cheated. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then they were already on the brink before Esther came in.
Yeah, like she comes in and she just brings everything out. Like she ramps it up and says like, oh, there's a little crack there. How can I exploit it? But also, if it hadn't been there, there'd be nothing for her to work with. Like that's why she latches on to Peter Sarsgaard in that adoption agency. Like they gravitate towards each other and she's like, oh, I can make this work. It's not just like, you're a hot
Can we talk about that
daddy.
real quick though? Like she's by herself in a room. And John, what are you doing? Like all the kids are over here playing. That should have been a red flag from the start. Why is this little girl by herself?
I want to point out something. So this was removed from the film, but in earlier drafts of the film, they gave Esther more of a backstory. So it wasn't just, oh, she's going after the men. So here we go, really quickly. So basically, she was molested by her father for years, starting when she was an infant, which... Okay. Destroying any future chance of her having her own children. Her father later took another lover, telling Esther that because of her condition, she could never be a real woman. She murdered them both and was ultimately sent to the Sarn Institute, the mental institution. After escaping from there, she worked as a prostitute in Estonia for a while. When she was when she was arrested for this, she kept up the pretense of being a child to stay out of jail and was sent to an orphanage. Esther sees herself as trapped inside the body of a child, and it disgusts her. She wants to grow up and be a wife, a mother, and a lover, what her father considered a real woman, and tries to find love where she thought she once had it as a child with her new father. Yeah.
Wow.
I would have liked that in this movie, to be honest. Really?
That's dark. That's really dark.
I feel like that's one of those... Okay, so I took a creative writing class back in university, and I had this whole thing where I did character breakdowns of, like, this is their entire backstory and blah, blah, blah. And I remember I turned it in, and my writing professor basically said, take that front page with all the character work, rip it off, and if you can't find a way to integrate this into your story organically, like... it's just not going to work. Like, when you read that, it totally resonates. It sounds completely plausible, but at the same time, I can't imagine how they would do any of that unless they had...
a flashback?
Flashbacks, or, like, what, Vera Farmiga, like, looking through files and being like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like, I just...
No, Esther on the Moulin
right?
Rouge.
Right?
That's a lot of backstory. I think it works great for Isabel, for the actress. I mean, maybe not because she was 12. God.
You were raised as a baby.
Redacted.
But I mean, we do have a little research montage where Kate's kind of like, Sarin Institute, and she finds everything rather quickly. I'm like, why didn't the nuns find all of this rather quickly?
Girl. Lazy nuns,
she's
man,
been
I'm
there
telling you.
so long.
These fucking lazy nuns. They were like, oh, we heard Russia? And she's like, bitch, it's Estonia. It's a completely different country.
What, I mean, honestly, though, when you watch the movie back, you could see the look on Sister Abigail's face as they're first meeting Esther. She's kind of like, oh shit, no, not this one. But she still lets them adopt. She still lets them adopt her. And then she comes back, oh, I was wrong about Esther. Like, she knew. They all knew from the beginning something was definitely way off about this chick.
Yeah.
And they did nothing. I think secretly because they wanted, like, I think it's like a race thing. No.
No, wait. No.
This little white child is evil. Let's get her the fuck out of here.
By all means, if you want to expand upon that, you are more than welcome to.
It's just, I mean, like, maybe that's her form of reparations.
Right.
Just like, yeah, give it to them.
Oh, like, I see this perfect white couple, and I'm just gonna, like, gift box you this child who's going to fuck up your life.
I mean, yes, because it had to be a setup. Sister Abigail clearly, on the look on her face, was like, oh shit, they really like her. All right, well, she gave them no warning, nothing. She sat them down. It was just like, yeah, I mean, she's a loner, whatever, and then sent them on their way. 3 weeks later, they got a child. Like, first of all, that never happens.
Yeah, it's the most expedited adoption ever.
As we've discussed, that there are more, like, there's a lot you have to infer from the movie based on, like, the bits of dialogue they give you. But I remember, okay, so she has the miscarriage. She's going through therapy for alcoholism. Would any therapist recommend, and would it be smart for any family to jump into adoption in the midst of all this turmoil they're going through? And I feel like that it happens really quickly. Like we're not even really hearing about them discussing adoption, and all of a sudden they're at the adoption nunnery place.
Right, and her scar's pretty fresh on her stomach. Like, you can infer it was within the 2 years, right? Within the year or two?
Yeah. I mean, it's a question. Was she an alcoholic as a result of losing...
That's what I thought.
Baby? Or was she an alcoholic and then she sobered up and then they tried and then she lost the child? Like, these are all little details that you can try to piece together. It's definitely not clear, but she does...
Is that bad screenwriting, or is that, like, deeply layered, complex writing?
Well, I mean, Kate says we just want to give something as much love as we feel. And I think maybe that fear of, I don't want to go through that again and get pregnant. Mm-hmm. So we're going to die. I just don't know what the need is for 3 children. Like,
me neither.
You pick that.
I forgot that they even had another
Danny.
child until Danny shows up.
Danny.
And I was like, oh, this fucking piece of shit. Oh, right.
Poor Danny.
He was rough, but you feel bad for him. Dude, when she, like,
okay, wait.
him...
Wait. Danny... Trace, I'm going to have to blow your mind again here, man.
Okay.
Danny is the Esther of this film until Esther shows up. He is a sociopath. he murders a bird.
Oh, the bird, I know.
And, like, guess
wow,
what?
yeah, it's true.
You don't kill animals with, like, sure, he cries, but it's only when Esther and Max actually show up. Like, he sees a bird and he decides to murder it.
Just tries to shoot it with his BB gun. Which, what do you think was going to happen, Danny?
It's a paintball gun. And
Oh, it was a paintball gun.
It's a paintball gun, yeah.
But I've never played paintball, but I heard that those things hurt really bad on humans.
They do.
skin.
Yeah.
They hurt really bad.
Yeah, I'm sure it, like, crushed the birds, like, ribs or whatever birds have that are ribs.
Yeah. Like, I firmly, my take of this film is that he is actually a secret sociopath, and that had Esther not started her reign of terror, that he would have ended up, like, becoming a killer.
Oh, I like that, and I totally agree.
Because he's such a petulant shit when she
And he's
starts
so
to
into
pull
what his
attention
friends
from him, right?
think.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, he's my friends are gonna make fun of me. Like, oh my god.
I mean,
okay.
that's a normal thing for, like, a 13-year-old kid to be
Yeah.
thinking. Like,
For a teenage boy, you're basically guaranteed to be a dick for a couple of years. But
oh, and when he said she's not my fucking sister, I was like, "Buh."
yeah. Way to put it out there at the dinner table, Danny.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys let me know if that's normal in white households, but in my black ass house,
No.
I would have gotten a fork through the eyeball. My mother would have never let me even drop the F-bomb. And
No.
John's so cool. He's like, that's me. That's me. I'm like, what? You're going to let him live? That's
No,
crazy.
I would have been, like, spanked up the stairs to my bedroom.
Oh, yeah. Like
it
I
would
wouldn't have
happened.
even made it away from the table before I would have been grabbed and, like, beaten severely.
But, okay, wait, so that's something that I think, though, is, like, a very, like, West Coast way of raising... I might be walking on a minefield here because, you know, people take parenting very seriously. But, like, in the South, like, in Texas where we are, and maybe it's different in Canada, and I don't know where you're from, Sade, but, like, that like, oh, kids are just like adults. We have to let them have their space. No. We didn't have that growing up.
No, I'm from Michigan in the Midwest. No, we don't play that either. You're a fucking kid.
I think there's partially a generational aspect as well. Like, not to throw my in-laws under the bus or anything, but part of my husband's extended family, they went through a period where they were like, we have to treat our children with respect and allow them to build, like, adult-like capacity and responsibility. So they would say, you know, like, here's 5 different things. Which one do you want to do? And the kids would get to decide. And one of the, like, the options could have been like, oh, do you want to have, like, a regular dinner, or do you want to do this other thing? And it was like, no, you're the adults. You've got to, like, lay that out for them. But I think part of it is just, like, that's so far beyond mine. Like,
I'm turning 30 in October, and I still don't get to pick what dinner when my mom comes to visit. Like,
Right?
I don't have options.
yeah, like, you will be told, the parent will make those decisions.
Exactly.
Right. So you're absolutely spot on about Danny, yeah, because that outburst right there, he should have been dead.
I did want to backtrack, though, because y'all mentioned, you know, oh, who needs 3 kids? Now, y'all know that when they were fucking in the kitchen, they were trying to have a 4th.
No. Were they?
I know because the whole thing was, like, their marriage was in shambles, and Esther, like, brought them closer together. They were finally getting happy, like, becoming happy again. She wants another kid. Like, that, I read that as, okay, like, let's make love, which is a phrase that I don't love.
Ew.
I know, it's such a gross phrase. And have a 4th kid. And I'm just like, and I guess maybe we're all the wrong people to talk about that with, because none of us
have kids.
Joe, I haven't talked to you about it, but do you want kids, Joe?
We talked about it, and then we decided it was not a good fit for us.
For me, I'm just a really selfish person, and I can't imagine, like, spending money on a child, much less 4.
Oh my god.
What?
Right now.
Trace can barely share the mic, so think about how he would actually deal with a child, right? No, we're watching Legends of Tomorrow. We are not watching Sesame Street.
Exactly. No, I mean, I have a great respect for parents and people who do have children, because I could not do it. Yeah, and I don't want to do it.
No, it's hard. Parenting is the hardest thing in the world. It's the hardest job in the world. I do want that. I said earlier I didn't, but not right now. I'm only turning 30. I still have life to live.
Gotcha.
So
sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were like, nope, the children's store is closed. But That makes more sense.
Yeah, I'm not that kind of girl that's like in a rush to have the baby and the marriage and stuff. I'm good. I mean, Meghan Markle just had a kid at 35. I'm chilling.
There you go. Yeah.
I think that might be an LA thing too, though, and I don't mean to generalize, all.
No, it
LA
is.
citizens,
No, you're right. That's why I left Michigan, because everyone there is barefoot and pregnant.
Oh dear.
Like, I didn't realize how close we are, actually.
I mean, the plus side is that you've got all of these orphanages with these 9-year-old foreign import babies that you can just go and pick up at your whim. Like, you make that decision 3 weeks later, you're going to have a kid fresh from Estonia.
Yeah.
Right, and that's actually, I'm sure, I don't know if you mentioned it yet, but there were a lot of protests against this film by pro-adoption people.
I can imagine.
Well, so
I get
it. So y'all remember there was the line in the trailer that is in the movie, but they removed from the trailer. It's when Esther's painting and she's talking to Peter Sarsgaard, and she's like, "It must be hard to love an adopted child as much as your own." And adoption agencies and like obviously pro-adoption people, which is that everyone should be pro-adoption, had a huge issue with it. Now, I understand why that line is in this movie, and also I can imagine that an adopted child might feel that way at some point. So I think it's an important way to bring it up, but because of the manner in which it's done, because it's this evil bitch, it's not exactly deep.
It's not kosher. No. But if you watch this movie, I think you can very clearly see that Kate and John, well, maybe not John, Kate's actually a very good mother most of the time. Like, she's actually very loving. She gives it a good fucking try to make it work with Esther before that little bitch basically burns the house down.
Right. I mean, she tries to teach her piano, and Esther pretends like she doesn't play the piano, and then she's like playing Bach or something.
I'm trying to remember what is the point where Kate realizes like, oh, something's wrong. Is it when she finds her playing the piano, or is it something before that?
That's really it, because I think she realizes at this point, this child is actively lying to me, which means that I can't trust her. And how can you love something that you don't trust?
So then how do y'all feel then about the way that this movie handles that? Because then you're really going into kind of a whole... To make a horror movie, you have to take something that people are comfortable with, or maybe something that they're unsure about, like adopting a child, and because there are fears. I'm sure when you're adopting a child, it's the same thing as when you're having a child. There are inherent fears there. So it's a horror movie's job to expose those fears or
exploit them.
Exploit them, yes. But it's like, what's Rosemary's Baby? Do people say, oh, like, that's bad for expecting mothers?
Devil children? Oh.
Well, I mean, but saying like,
the Church of Satan was actively protesting it.
But I mean, like, I get where the, protesters of this particular storyline were coming from, but it's also like, it's a horror movie? I don't know.
Well, yeah, like, does anybody watch this film and say, like, oh, yeah, no, I can't adopt, because what if I end up adopting a 33-year-old serial killer?
No, it's the same thing like with It, like all the clowns protested. We're not all like that. People freak out all the time about horror movies, but it really is just a different form of storytelling. They do it all the time and it passes and it's never that bad. Like Orphan came out and I think everyone could tell if you saw the movie, like it's really, she's an older woman, so it's not really about adopting. It's really about other things, but people freak out all the time.
That's the funny thing about this film, right? Is at the end of the day, I mean, I joked in my plot summary that, it's so enjoyable watching Vera Farmiga backhand this little girl in a public space, and you're like, yeah, slap the shit out of her. But the film gets away from it because at this point that she's not a child.
That's a grown-ass woman.
Yeah, she's a crazy bitch.
She deserves it.
Which I think it's one of the smarter things. Like, the twist is so ridiculous and over the top.
I love it, though.
But the film manages to get away with it because it says, oh, no, it's okay to hate this person because that's not a child. That's a grown-ass woman. So now we can want to watch Vera Farmiga, like, fall through a skylight on top of her and crush her. or kick her in the face and drown her in a pond.
Here's my question, though. So her reveal scene, which I think is great, she pulls out her dentures and she has the ugliest fucking teeth.
Those dentures weren't anything special either.
No.
Oh, God.
But then she has her boobs taped down. She's wearing Spanx. Like, Spanx. You are telling me that neither Vera Farmiga nor Peter Sarsgaard has seen this child without clothes on?
Well, that's why we get that bathroom scene where she takes the bath and she locks the door.
I know, it's the rules are different with adopted kids, right? Like, how long do you wait till you, check out your adopted kid naked?
You've got to respect that privacy and
respect
that relationship, right? Because that's why it's so important for Kate when she says, oh, I think she's finally opening up, when she first starts to, talk about the piano and all those other things. And Kate's like, oh, we can start to move it to the next step where she's actually going to, accept me as her mother.
And that's why, again, we might all be the wrong people to, not that we're the wrong people to discuss it, but because we don't have that experience. So I don't really know if we have any listeners like that either, but I know we have some parents out there. So listeners, if you have adopted or you've considered adoption, or if you are, if you have children of your own, biological children, what are your thoughts on this movie, and kind of, do you buy into it, or is it just kind of too silly and unbelievable? I'm very curious to know about that.
I can buy into the wrapping the boobs and compressing all of that stuff. It's the ribbons around the neck and the wrist that I'm like, you guys, seriously?
Well, it's so funny. I remember that there were people back in 2009 when the twist came out and people were talking about it. There were a bunch of people that were really disappointed that her head didn't fall off.
What?
Because it's that urban legend. I think it might even be a scary stories to tell in the dark, where there's a character who ties a ribbon around their neck and it's to keep the head attached.
What?
And I was like, so you thought that she was a supernatural entity who kept her head on with the ribbon? Okay, cool, got it, check.
I'm actually, because I don't remember what I thought it was. Because, again, like we've discussed, that was the whole marketing concept of the movies. And you're like, what's the matter with Esther? Or there's something wrong with Esther. Esther's got a secret. And, again, that got my ass into that fucking seat opening night. I don't remember what I thought it was, though.
Did you walk out of the theater? Okay, wait, I want to hear this from both of you. When you first saw this film, did the twist work for you? Or were you like, oh, fuck, come on?
No, it worked for me 100%. But you know how much I lean into the fantastical, ridiculous shit. So
yeah, you love a good over-the-top reveal.
I love an over-the-top reveal, and I love her performance of it, because it's over-the-top, but also I bought it in a realistic way.
Well, it's really Isabel that carries it, because, she smears her eyeliner, she takes her teeth out, and then she's really scary, as she's a really ugly woman, and she makes it so believable that, for me, I was like, this is awesome.
Too, right?
She looks old. Good makeup, whoever did it.
Yeah,
so, Sade, did it work for you when the first time you saw it?
Oh, yeah, I was 19. I had just moved to LA when I saw this movie.
You were like, I've seen that girl on the street.
I am that girl. No, but it was interesting because, at 19 is a weird age where you kind of look like you're 14, but you are an adult and you want to be seen as an adult. So I definitely connected on some little level like that. Everyone says I look like a 14-year-old too. I kind of get that, girl. But it's really because of the actress. She pulled off that switch from sweet little girl to crazy bitch so well.
And that's kind of why I do like this movie a lot, though, is because even though it's fucking 2 hours long, it does things with children that I really wouldn't expect a mainstream big studio film to do. Even in 2009. There are things in this movie that I honestly wouldn't expect some movies to do today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how much it puts those kids in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the It remake, too, when my sister and I went to see it, 2 years ago, the first thing we said was, oh my God, I'm so glad they bit that kid's arm off. And because they normally hide away from shots like that. Mm-hmm. Not in Europe. Europe doesn't care.
No.
But here we do.
It's a North American thing by far.
But I'm really into, kids in danger. Because, the thing is, and as someone who is not a parent, I feel like in America, we are so inclined to shield our children from danger and from the horrors of the world. And when I see them do this to child actors, and granted, I'm not there seeing how they're doing it, but they know what's happening to an extent. They have to know what's going on. So I just kind of like it. I don't know. Like, fucking shock the children.
That's actually the point I was going to make a while back when I was talking about Max, is they apparently just told her it was a game. So I think she knew that it was acting, but she was like, I think it was like, okay, so this girl is going to like, you know, push you and it's going to be funny, and just ignore the fact that there's going to be a car that swerves around you. Then you have to...
I think that, again, like, if you're talking about, like, the filmmaking part of it, like, you know, you have the camera rushing at her, but there's not really a car going at that little girl. No.
But, like, I think all of the really heavy content, like... You know, you can't expect that even a child actor is really going to be able to process that. So I think in these cases, there's sort of like, okay, so you're going to, you know, tap this person.
Like, what kind of fucking game is this?
She grows up and people are like, so do you want to play a game? She's like, oh, who are we going to murder?
Like that scene where she does the Russian roulette and she's like, you want to play? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You are holding a gun at a child.
That scene is off the wall.
There's some suspension of disbelief here, though. So, I mean, obviously, you're to believe that, you know, Esther, like, intimidates her enough and, you know, says, I'm going to kill mommy if you tell her. I still think that, like, I don't know if I fully buy into that this girl would not tell someone that. To the point where when Danny was finally, like, getting her to open up, I was like, thank God. That these kids
one of the
few
scenes that we have that's not like that doesn't include an adult or Esther as well. Mm-hmm. It's like I think that's the only time that you actually see the two of them talking. And you're like, yeah, you guys need to communicate more frequently, because a lot of this shit could have been avoided if you just had told an adult.
But Max is no snitch, and I can really appreciate that.
This
like,
is true.
Honestly, I really liked the scene in the grocery store though when she was having her read Vera Farmiga's lips when she was on the phone with Sister Abigail. I thought that was a really well done scene. This isn't a wholly original movie. I mean, in the fucking first 15 minutes alone, you have one fake mirror, like bathroom medicine cabinet scare, and then a real one.
Yeah. And then later they do it again when she's opening the fridge, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, are they going to have... But, like, the film is savvy enough that it very clearly understands all of these tropes and knows how well to use them.
Yeah. I mean, true. I think Collet-Serra is actually a very good director. I argue that House of Wax is a more enjoyable and better directed movie than this. I do.
But you love a slasher.
I do. But, and granted, that one is very dependent on special effects, but I think... I'm sure he'd learn more. Oh, because he directed a movie called The Goal 2, or Goal 2, The Dream Begins, which is like a soccer movie between these two.
Yes.
Yeah, Goal.
And maybe it's because, though, House of Wax, to me, rises above slasher conventions to become a kind of like something that's a little bit more impressive. Whereas the screenplay is kind of impressive, I don't think there's a lot of super creative, like, directorial things on display here.
I disagree with that.
I can say that.
Okay.
I disagree, but I can see what you say, like angles, transitions. He's not really being creative, but the characters are so damn good, and the conversations, the scenes are like masterclass acting.
Right.
One-on-one.
But he didn't write the screenplay, but he is directing his actors.
It's true.
You're right. He is directing his actors, but he's also dealing with
child actors
and really good actors. I mean, this is Vera Farmiga before she's super famous. Like, I mean, she'd done a couple things around this time, and I remember being kind of shocked that she did this movie, which apparently was because of the paycheck.
She wanted a paycheck and she wanted to work with Peter.
Yeah.
Was it that good of a paycheck? I mean, it was an original horror film in 2009.
Well, I think it meant that she was in a bunch of shit that probably didn't pay very well.
Yeah, her exact words were, Vera Farmiga said the film was appealing in so many ways, but largely because she, quote-unquote, got a paycheck for once.
What?
So she had probably worked in a bunch of different things that either she didn't get paid for at all, or it was like maybe she had done things as favors for people.
Agent?
Yes.
Well, I mean, she'd been acting for 11. She started her first acting credit I could find was from 1998. But I mean, the biggest thing I really remember her being in was she was in another Killer Kid movie called Joshua 2 years before this, which I'd never seen, but that's an indie film. She was in this movie with Kate Beckinsale and David Schwimmer called Nothing But the Truth, where it was like a really, really fucking good movie, by the way. But she's a bit part in it. Like, she's not the main character. So I think she had a lot of those roles, and it wasn't really until something like this where she is the main character.
Yeah, where she gets real money.
Yeah, and I think Up in the Air is what really...
Yes.
Yeah, that cemented her for sure.
That cemented her as, like, oh, like, this is an actress to be on the lookout for. Like, she had a lot of small parts that she made it, like, really deep impressions in. But Up in the Air is what was like, oh, she's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Love her sister.
I don't love her sister.
You don't love her sister? What?
I think Taissa Farmiga is one of the worst actresses I've...
No.
I just watched a movie with her recently called, oh fuck. It's a Shirley Jackson adaptation. It's her and Alexandra Daddario. It's like We Have Always Lived Alone in the Castle or something. And Taissa Farmiga is asked to basically show no emotion for the whole movie. And I was like, oh my god. It's her best performance! She's not doing anything!
Did you not like Nun then? Did you not like the Nun?
No, I don't like the Nun.
Oh.
But I don't think the Nun rests on her.
No, but...
like, the screenplay is the problem with that, isn't it?
The one that people go for is Final Girls. And I really, really, really like the Final Girls. But I think
not her.
I think it would be a lot better if anyone else was in her role.
Micah Monroe.
Oh, dang. I didn't know there was so much Tessa.
Yeah.
Backlash.
The Tessa drama.
I sure as shit don't like her in American Horror Story, any of the seasons that she's been in.
She's often given these really sad sack characters on American Horror Story, though.
But you know what, though? It's the same with, like, I've said similar things about Micah Monroe, where I was like, oh, she plays kind of the same character that is kind of this sad sack character. So when I finally saw her in Greta playing, like, this firecracker, I was like, oh, good. Like, I'm convinced now. I need Taissa Farmiga to do something like that.
Yeah, you need her to shake it up a little more.
Yeah, because she plays the
you
exact same
character. You hear that,
character.
Tessa? Trace demands you shake it up.
Gauntlet thrown, challenge accepted.
I don't hate her. I think I just said I hate her. I don't hate Taissa Farmiga. I haven't seen anything from her to make me think that she can't play the same character over and over and over again.
That's fair.
Because I had to deal with this when we were talking about Jaws, so let's just have it on the record. So Trace totally fucking hates her, wants her to die, never wants to see her again.
Because apparently I told everyone that Joe hates Jaws, when actually he just doesn't really care for it.
Yeah.
I agree. I still think Deep Blue Sea is the best shark movie over
sure.
Jaws,
Yeah.
and I will die on that hill.
Yeah. Be careful, Sade. When you get rolling with your own podcast here, like, you say things and you say them flippantly, and apparently then you have to answer DMs for the rest of your life about it.
We have hired a social media intern, so you guys can go ahead and send all your hate mail to her because I don't read it. So.
You're like, hello,
do what you
I
want.
am a powerful woman, and I will not be reading your personal responses.
Literally, we hired a film student, and she gets to filter all of the stuff. She'll send me a couple of good comments, but I'm like, the rest, I'm like, I don't care.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're like, I'd like 1 or 2 positive comments for every episode.
I think Ariana Grande does that too. Like, her team will send her like some top comments of the day, and that's it.
Nice. That wouldn't surprise me. But all right, so I feel like we're wrapping up a bit here. Are there any things about the movie that you'll want to get out before we kind of go into the conclusion?
I did just want to say that I think that this is a very well-directed film, and part of that is that I like the way that he uses aerial shots to anticipate things to come. So you see a lot of shots of, like, the road and the pond, and it's just kind of cueing you to let you know, hey, there's going to be something important that happens at these locations later on. So.
Just a heads up, he does the same thing in House of Wax, specifically in a scene when Alicia Cuthbert is running away from the killer. So, yeah, I just wanted to point
So he's got a director trademark. Fantastic.
He does. I think he does this. I mean, I haven't seen his Liam Neeson movies. Oh, which God. I think Vera Farmiga's in one of them, too.
Yeah. I want to say Nonstop, but don't quote me.
Oh, no, it's The Commuter. No, she's in The Commuter. That's what she's in.
Oh, the train one. Okay,
yes, the train one. Yeah, so there's a train, and there's a plane, and then
it's just white people getting kidnapped and dealing with, like, European villains.
Well, no, so the Commuter's a train, the Nonstop is a plane, and Unknown is, I don't know what Unknown is, but that's Diane Kruger, I think.
And then the gray is Wolves.
The gray is really good, though, but that's not Collet-Serra. Yeah. But anyway, I was going to say he also does aerial shots, I believe, in The Shallows, which, as a lot of, like Blake Lively, on the rock.
That one, like, you have to, because literally your movie is her stranded
on a rock.
If you don't have aerial shots, what else have you got in that movie?
Blake Lively, exactly.
But
that's all you need.
This way you get the top-down boob shot, you can get, like, the rotating ass shot. Like, you got to maximize your Blake Lively coverage.
Yeah, for sure. I love Blake Lively, so I will not hear any bad language about her.
So, unlike Taissa Farmiga.
No,
Is that right?
You can rip Taissa Farmiga a new asshole for all I care. I don't care.
Holy.
Wow.
So
Jesus.
I do like this movie a lot. I like it less than I did 10 years ago because I do think that runtime is, I don't want to say unforgivable, but yeah, it's, well, and then I go to something like Scream 2, which is like, it isn't an even one.
It's a tight, it's 91, right?
No, it is 120 minutes.
What is it? Oh, it's 120?
It is 2 hours. 2 hours.
It doesn't, I think that's the problem, is that the first part of this film is really good, emotionally character-driven stuff. And then the middle section, you've got, okay, she's bad. People are starting to figure it out. Like, let's bring it together. And there's a couple of parts where it sort of stops and starts, and there's not enough murder.
So here's the thing. I'm going to say right now, the 40-minute, so Act 1, 2, and 3, 40, 80, 120 minutes, we're dividing up into 3 parts. The 40-minute mark is when she says, Esther says, oh, I know that adults fuck. The 80-minute mark is when Max and Danny finally team up. So between that is your second act of 40 minutes. And now think about what happens between those moments. So you got Vera Farmiga being like, oh shit, to the kids finally teaming up. I think that second act does have things you can like do.
Mm-hmm.
But that third act, it just feels so rushed. It feels like it's just blowing through.
It does. And the last 20 minutes are from like the seduction of Peter Sarsgaard to the end. And I'm still like, you know what? Because it cuts to credits as soon as like Vera Farmiga gets out of that lake after she, breaks her fucking neck.
You want like 2 extra minutes? That is a good kick, by the way.
It is. Oh, and
that was a good
they
kick.
show it. But yeah, I want like a 2-minute coda. Just give me a 2. You've already gotten me for 123 minutes. Give me a 2-minute coda.
But like, what do you want in that closing?
For her to bend down and tell Max you're a shitty shot. I should never have had you.
Come on.
How do you miss?
Come on, darling. We're gonna go to the target range, and I'm gonna teach you how to shoot.
Seriously, who shoots the ice, Max? Like, it's right there.
Yeah, 100%. So those are my 2 cents. Sade, do you have anything else you want to say, contribute?
I think it's great character, great layering for character building. Not scary, just really interesting thriller, I would say. I'd say it's got some interesting anticipation builds.
I think, Joe, you said it was very campy earlier, and we didn't really hone in on the campiness of it, but it has a lot of campy elements that I think really work in its favor.
Yeah.
Right. But as an original horror story goes, I think it's pretty tight.
I give it credit for trying something different, particularly at this time, as we talked about, when like you're not making 2-hour family dramas with like a wonky child movies. Like this is the day and age where Esther's breaking her arm in the vice grip. Like that's the entire movie that's getting made in 2009. So for them to be like, let's do something about infidelity and alcoholism and stillborn children and adoption, and then just sprinkle in like a couple of these other more traditionally horrific things. Like,
right.
It's kind of a brave film. And I think that's actually one of the reasons people gravitated to it on the blacklist, because they said, oh, this is a genuinely mature kind of script. And then you somehow also end up with this hilarious campy nonsense, which just makes it such a fun watch, I think, because of Isabel. So, which is for me why I end up like somewhere down the middle, because I don't think it's a great film. The runtime is too long. It's trying to do a lot of things, and sometimes it's not always great.
Your score on Letterboxd was a 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably closer to about a 3.5. But it's like there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't quite work because it's like that family melodrama is competing at times with the crazy camp. But I love the film for going there.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
I do, yeah. I agree, because I feel like even without Esther, you'd have a solid-ass drama right there.
Oh, yeah.
Like a good
I
drama.
agree. Well, and I've never seen Joshua, but apparently it is a very, very, very good creepy kid movie that's more classy than this one is.
Interesting.
And also not
more classy.
Yeah.
I think of shit like The Prodigy that came out this year.
No.
Which
Whoa. We're not talking. I love The Prodigy.
I enjoyed it too.
But see, that's a film that only works because of its twist. And we're not going to spoil it because we haven't warned people. But that's a film that basically plays like it gives you everything that you expect is going to happen. And then it's only when it doesn't give you that and it gives you something completely fucking weird in the end, that's the only time that movie comes alive.
Which, by the way, we're not going to spoil it, but it has, I think, one of the best intros, opening scenes to me for one shot. And I know you know what shot I'm talking about.
I know what it is. It also has a really good graphic kill scene in the end of the movie. But again, we'll leave it at that. Okay, cool. Well, if that's it, I'm going to say before we discuss what we're going to be talking about next week, Sade, what would you like to plug?
Well, I want everyone to go ahead and go listen to Afro Horror. It's live now. When this episode premieres, it'll be live on all streaming platforms. Mm-hmm. But my movie Deadly Dispatch that I wrote for TV One is premiering this Sunday, July 28th. At 8 p.m. sometime Central PST. I don't know. It's
time to be determined, but check the channel.
Time to be determined. But check the channel and watch it if you like thrillers, especially like this Orphan. Like I said, it's at the end of the day, it's a story about a woman trying to track down her best friend's killer, but it's really about her keeping her family together. And there's infidelity, and there's lies, and there's cheating, and there's murders. So please check out Deadly Dispatch on July 28th on TV One.
And you did, you let me know too as well for your Afro Horror podcast. It's similar to what we're doing with queer horror, but obviously it's with black horror cinema. And can you say what the first film you're covering is? Yeah,
we're so excited because the first film we're covering is actually Deep Blue Sea with the screenwriter Wayne Powers. And it's only a few days before their 20th anniversary on the 28th. We have a really great lineup this season. We have Jeff Howard coming in to talk about, as he's a really big fan of the faculty, so we're going to talk about that. And we just signed Edwin Hodges from The Purge, and he's going to go talk about his experience about being a black man who survives at the end of The Purge.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I'm quite excited for this because I think you'll have a lot of very, very fun conversations.
Yeah.
Yes, we're planning on keeping it fun and light. Like, we know it can go really south with the politics, and also because me and my co-hosts are firm millennials, we won't be doing any movies before 1990.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna leave all the 80s stuff to you guys and Halloweenies and all those other cool people, but we're doing 90s and up, y'all.
Keep it contemporary.
The way to my heart. Well, that's great. So yes, everyone go check that out. That is out today. And then I guess we'll kind of move into our housekeeping, our standard spiel. If you want to reach us on Twitter, you can reach me at Traced Thurman.
And I'm at B Stole My Remote. That's the letter B.
If you're tweeting about the podcast, please be sure to use the hashtag HorrorQueers in your tweets. You can also email us at horrorqueers@gmail.com or check out our Facebook page. If you have 2 seconds, please go to iTunes and leave us a rating. We haven't had a good review in a while, so if you haven't left us a review yet, please go do that. If you want even more content, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/horrorqueers, where you can sign up for exclusive bonus episodes covering recent horror films like Midsummer and Crawl. And you'll also get a newsletter on the first of every month telling you what our schedule is for that month, so you can know the movies we cover before we announce them. But, talking of announcements, Joe, what are we covering next week?
All right, so we are embarking into our first foray in animation, and we're going to check out 2012's Paranorman.
I believe also our first family film.
Yes, which is why I've been able to invite a very special guest star on who does not like horror films.
Yeah, but I've never seen this, but apparently there's a gay character in it, and I've been wanting to see this for a very, very, very long time, so.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Yep. Okay, well, I think on that note, then, we can cross out Orphan.
Yes, and cross out Horror Queers.
This episode was brought to you by the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network, delivering your weekly horror podcast fix. To find more episodes of this show and others, please visit bloodydisgusting.com/podcast network.
Get in, losers. This is the Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Sammy.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm May. Our podcast is a tribute to the female-identifying killers in horror and more.
Each episode will feature us, your Supreme Court of female murderers, discussing our favorite lady killers, from your Julias and Jennifers to your Carries and Christines.
We'll tell her story, decide if it's good for her horror, and answer the most important question of all: would we die for her?
Join us on Thursdays as we pull on our sweaters, snatch our ice picks, sharpen our scissors, and honor the lady killers who live on the silver screen.
No boys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yet.
It was late in the afternoon when the professor and I took our way towards the east, whence I knew Jonathan was coming.
Jonathan Harker has asked me to note this, as he says he is hardly equal to the task, and he wants an exact record kept.
Dear Madam Mina, I have read your husband's so wonderful diary. Strange and terrible as it is true. I will pledge my life on it.
God preserve my sanity, for to this I am reduced. Safety and the assurance of safety are things of the past.
I am in hopes that I shall see more of you at Castle Dracula.
Listen to Regarding Dracula wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm.